2 years after their release, and the Lumineth Realm Lords finally have a starter set. Today on Budget WoW, we'll be going over their new Vanguard set and talking a little bit about the new Sons of Behemat releases. So in this video, we'll be going over the new pre-orders that have just gone up on the GW website, including first and foremost those Orktober reveals I know we've all been waiting for. And on a more serious note, we'll be focusing the bulk of this video on the Lumineth Vanguard kit. It's nice to see they've finally gotten their own start collecting style starter box. We'll go over, of course, the contents in the box, followed by a pricing and value overview, and then we'll talk about what you get on the tabletop in terms of points and some next steps for if you're starting out and want to expand the Lumineth Force from this starter kit. Next, we'll go over the Sons of Behemat briefly and talk about the new pricing of the Megagargant kit with the inclusion of King Broad, and we'll talk a little bit about the changes to the mancrusher Gargant pricing as well. But before we talk about those silly elves, I wanted to say that they did announce a new model for Orktober. I'm really excited to see what it could be. Now, I know that they tend to focus a little more on 40K for Orktober, but, I'm just seeing this for the first time. Let's see. Oh. I put up with a lot of stuff from Games Workshop, but this is kind of crossing a line. Okay, anyway, getting into the Lumineth Vanguard kit, what you get in the kit, you get a unit of Wardens, you get a unit of Sentinels, you get a unit of Blade Lords, and you get the Cenari Cathalar. Really quite a good spread of units in the box. The Wardens, of course, being your standard battle line that unlock both your Sentinels and the Dawn Riders from some other kits as additional battle line choices on a one-to-one basis. The Cathalar is a neat support hero that plays with bravery and has some ways of both mitigating battle shock on your end as well as causing some headaches for your opponent. And then the Blade Lords are a bodyguard unit for the Cenari Wizards, which the Cathalar is one, so there's some synergy there. So they can soak some wounds up for your Wizards, as well as they become a battle line option themselves if you have a Cenari Wizard on the board. So going over the individual pricing, the box, the Cenari Cathalar would run you $33.50 if you bought it from Games Workshop, and each of the units in the box are $60 currently. So you're getting quite a lot of value in this box. If you were to buy everything at MSRP, this represents a total value of $213.50 US. But the box, of course, is going to retail for $130 US, same as all the Vanguard releases they've released so far, which represents a savings of $83.50, or about 40%, which is among the best we've seen so far with these Vanguard sets. So quite happy to see that. I don't know if this is an artifact of Lumineth being a newer army and their kits themselves cost more, but it's nice to see that finally Lumineth, which has been quite a expensive army, has a way to get some savings on some of its core units. I like to talk a little bit about points, especially if you're new to the game and starting out. This does matter for playing matched play games. It's how you balance the game out against your opponent. And the points you're getting in this box of Cenari Cathalar is 110. The Wardens and Sentinels are 150 each. The Blade Lords are 130. Now these are the points from the new Battle Tome, which I do want to thank AOS Coach. I pulled these points from his video. He has a great overview from the Battle Tome. He got an advanced copy from Games Workshop. If you're interested in the rules changes and the kind of the tactics of the army, I recommend checking it out. But in total, you're looking at 540 points in the box, and you're getting 3 battle line options, as I mentioned, with 1 hero. This is perhaps the weaker point of the box. I have critiqued several of their boxes for, they advertise it as a, quote, Vanguard force, which is the smallest game setting in Age of Sigmar at 750 points. This is over 200 points shy of that, so it's not really a Vanguard force. But this is a totally playable starter army if you're just starting out, and is totally gives you a good spread of units and a hero to kind of learn the mechanics of the game, and branch out into a 1,000 point list or more in the future. So speaking of which, what are some ways to expand your Vanguard box into a full army? Now, before we get into that, I do want to suggest my first suggestion for a next purchase would be to wait a little bit. Especially if you're new to the hobby, my philosophy is at the very least assemble everything in the first box you purchase, and I would really recommend painting up the models, playing some starter games. You get actually a really good spread of units to learn the game in this Vanguard box. If you're just starting out, you get a wizard, you get some infantry, you get a ranged unit, and you can play some enjoyable small games with this. I think probably better than what I learned on, which was Tempest of Souls in second edition. So that's my 2 cents on the topic. But if you're looking to expand, if it were me, the first thing I would look at would be the Lumineth half of the Arcane Cataclysm box. Now you can pick this up for about $110 if you split it with a friend, or if you pick up the half of the box on eBay, perhaps. There were a couple listings for around $110, $120, which is actually a better value than the $130 dollar Vanguard kit, or comparable if you're able to find that typical 15% discount from another retailer on the Vanguard set. You can probably find it for about 110 bucks. Getting this half of the Arcane Cataclysm set will get you to a 1,000 point army, to start playing some 1,000 point games. It's pretty simple, because you get 540 points in the Vanguard kit, you get 590 in the Arcane Cataclysm Lumineth half. That puts you at 1,130 points a unit. All you have to do is just drop one of the units of Blade Lords. You've got a 1,000 point list that's totally legal right there, with 2 heroes, doubled up unit of Sentinels. You get some cavalry. I think this gives you some variety, some really beautiful models to paint. You get a more powerful wizard in the Enlightener. Just a really solid set, and honestly something to look at if you're not crazy about the Vanguard set. You might want to look at this as a first purchase instead. Alternatively, you could look around if you could find a copy of the old launch box, either at a local game store. I have seen some copies floating around on eBay, some for reasonable price, like $100, which isn't so bad. You get another unit of Wardens, a unit of the Dawn Riders, and then you get that Light of Eltharion, which is just a beautiful model, and it looks like a very fun model to play in the game too. He's very fighty, which is something that's kind of lacking in the heroes and the other options I've mentioned. But just be aware that if you're going to look around for this, do the math on where it's actually saving you money. For me, I probably wouldn't buy it if it was, honestly, 150 would be pushing it, but you are looking at some savings if you can get it for less than 150 bucks versus buying everything individually. You could look at buying Techless, which is something that a lot of competitive Lumineth lists have traditionally ran. He's one of the most powerful wizards in the game. I don't expect that to change with the new battle tome from what I've heard about it. Just know he's expensive. He's more expensive than the Vanguard list. He's 144 bucks at a discount, 170 without. But it's 700 points, which is also more than the Vanguard box. So that would get you kind of well on your way towards a 2,000 point army. And in that sense, in the grand scheme of things, that can be a kind of economical thing in the long run when you look at how expensive the hobby is as a whole to buy a full 2,000 point list. Could buy 2 Vanguards, would be very doable. I'd really be looking at that for the second unit of Wardens and the second unit of Sentinels, which is just about worth it on its own. You figure those would run 120 bucks. For an extra 10 bucks, you're getting the Blade Lords and another Cathalar, so something to think about. Or just whatever your heart desires. I think there's a lot to be said about just buying the models that you like the most. I think the cows are pretty cool. I know it's kind of a love it or hate it sort of thing. So, if you can find them for a good price, just do you. And lastly, we'll close out on a more destruction-related note with a word on Behemat. The Gargant kit has gone up to $210 from $200. I have long thought the Gargant kits were massively overpriced at $200 compared to the like 165 Imperial Knights analog and 40K. However, they've added 2 new options in King Broad and the Beast Smasher to the kit, and it's otherwise the same kit. You still have the other options, the Gatebreaker, the Kraken Eater, and the Warstomper Gargant can also be built from this kit. You're only getting one unless you do some creative shenanigans with kit bashing and bits and things like that, which is extra work. But I will say it did go up less in price than I was expecting. It's only 10 extra bucks for the kind of expanded kit, so that's not as bad as it could have been. The mancrusher Gargants have seen an interesting change in their kit, and this comes from their new battle tome. You can actually they've packaged it up where you can run 3 of them as a mob, or you can run them individually as battle line, and now they just have this box set where you can buy 3 for 1. So it used to be you bought 2 for 130 bucks, or about $65 each. Now you can buy 3 for 160, which is actually technically less than it used to be if you're thinking of it in terms of each Gargant. It would be $53 a Gargant because you're buying more, right? But keep in mind the kit's more expensive, and it's a question of, do you want 3 mancrusher Gargants? I don't know. You can also buy 1 for 70, which is worse, but not too far off where the 2 fur kit ran. You can still find the 2 Gargant kits pretty readily right now, by the way, for about 110 bucks online. So just keep that in mind if for whatever reason you just wanted to. Anyway, that does it for this video. I think that the new Vanguard set for Lumineth is overall quite exciting. I do like the direction some of the newer Vanguard kits have been going. Between this and Nighthaunt, there have been some pretty solid kits put out, which makes me hopeful for the future. And it's always nice to see one for an army that never had one to begin with. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, and if you've stuck around this long, let me know in the comments below who you think would win. Would it be the great nations of Hysh, or this handsome lad over here? Anyway, happy hobbying, and take it easy.